And good morning, Newton Falls. I'm Dave Lynch. I'm the city manager here in Newton Falls, Ohio, and this is our morning update. I probably should call it two mornings update because it's just Tuesdays and Fridays. We were doing this 7 days a week, but now just a couple days a week as we have flattened the COVID-19 curve. And this program has evolved really more into a program to talk about what's going on generally in Newton Falls, Ohio. It's only about 15 minutes, folks. And it comes to you from Gregory Productions, who does this at zero cost to the taxpayers of Newton Falls. So, folks, it's not costing anybody a dime, except for, I suppose, Tom Gregory and the time he puts into it. But we appreciate all his hard work and the chance to communicate with you in a rather unique way about what's going on in our town. Well, what is going on in our town? Well, interestingly enough, City Council is on what is referred to as its summer break, and that's in the charter of the City of Newton Falls, that they go on a summer break, but then set specific dates for what they call summer break meetings. And back in May, they set the summer break meeting date for August 17th. So it's almost a full month away before we get to our next council meeting. And it's a chance for the members of our municipal legislature to get some things done in their own lives without being taken over to the administrative duty of participating in the meeting. In other words, they get to go on vacation and go places all around the country and bring back information to our own community. And hopefully they've gotten some R&R so that they can get their batteries recharged. Well, if there's something that's going on in town that's an interesting sort of, I'll call it a replay, is that here in Newton Falls, as part of the state of Ohio, the governor has ordered that masks be worn by persons when they are out and about. So if you go into a store, a mask is mandatory. It's interesting, the environment that's happened because of those masks. There's still some people with some pushback saying that it's not right for the governor to do that. And I hear and understand some of that reasoning. But what's fascinating to me is when, as the safety director of Newton Falls, I put in a mandatory order for people to wear masks in town when they were in stores, there was tremendous amount of really attack on me. There was even someone that created a picture of me and they drew a Hitler mustache on my photograph and then posted on Facebook, indicating the terrible dictatorship. Mr. Lynch should lose his job for imposing such an order. Well, now the governor's imposed such an order on Newton Falls. And while there are some people objecting, most of the people that were so vehement in their attacks against me have not come forward. And it's a little bit of a mystery, but I think it's not so much of a mystery as revealing the character of some of those people for the fact that they've decided to hide in their bunker when the order comes from the governor. And by the way, under the state constitution, Newton Falls is a charter municipality and has something called home rule, which means we have the right to impose orders the same way as the governor's office. Well, let's move on to our first guest because it's all good news show today. And our first guest on the live line is an outstanding person because Newton Falls is an animal-loving community. What I mean by that is cats and dogs and other animals that are domestic pets in Newton Falls are well cared for. And here's one thing I've always noticed about Newton Falls. Every other day on Facebook, you can find someone that says, hey, I saw a stray dog at the corner of Milton and Broad Street, and they've taken a picture of it, and the Facebook page says, I took this animal in, come to my house in case you've lost your dog. And usually what happens, the owner and the pet get reunited. And what does that tell me? That tells me that people love the pets. They love to take care of them. And they're very compassionate towards them. And how fortunate they are that we have right in Newton Falls a wonderful institution called the Newton Falls Animal Hospital. And our live line right now is Krista Burnsworth, who is the practice manager at the Newton Falls Animal Hospital. Good morning, Krista. How are you?
I'm good, Dave. How are you?
Great, great. Thanks for coming on the program. Krista, before I get to some of the details, am I right? Is Newton Falls a special place when it comes to having a real love for their pets?
Oh, definitely. I've been an employee of the animal hospital for about 16 years, and the love that the community has for their pets never stands to surprise me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've heard all kinds of stories. Before we get to some of those, we started this program several weeks ago talking about how businesses dealt with the COVID-19 era and with this little bit of a resurgence and all these orders coming out of Columbus. How has your operations adapted to the coronavirus?
Well, we quickly implemented curbside service, which allowed us to continue providing the best medicine for our community and their pets, but also protecting our staff and the individuals bringing those pets in. And that's proven to be an effective way for us to continue functioning at the level we do in the community, but also allowing people to have a place to turn when they need us.
This may sound like an obviously answered question, but I'm not sure. What's the science on the ability for our pets to either pick up the virus, experience and undergo the sickness of the virus, and or to pass it on to somebody else? In fact, pass it on to humans. What's the science on that, if you know?
Um, I don't know the exact science. What I do know is that there is the possibility for certain animals to carry a virus very similar to the COVID-19, if not a duplicate virus. I believe it does affect them in a similar way that it does humans. However, we've not had any cases at our hospital of ever even suspicious viral infection. So it's not something I'm familiar with any personal experience. We just recommend people, if you're ill, to stay home and to take care of yourselves. And if your pets are ill, you bring them to us and we'll take care of them.
That's great. And I presume on the inside of the building, you impose some masking requirements and some social distancing and things of that nature, Krista?
Yes, we have implemented some mask wearing for the staff when they go out to the public to talk. Certainly everyone has to come out and get the pets from people. So that level of communication, when they're outside, if they can keep that 6-foot distance, communication certainly is easier without the masks, but we always have them on us to, put on if we have to get closer to people. And then certainly inside the building when we're working in close proximity with each other, we're utilizing that option.
Sure. Let's talk about the business itself. Are you a full service operation? In other words, are there some minor surgery activities going on in your building, or tell us a little bit about the operation?
We are at full operations right now. We only slowed down just for a very brief period back in March when everything sort of came to the surface. We quickly tried to tighten up a little bit and limit what we were doing. However, we found that what we believe are essential procedures was almost across the board. Depending on how you looked at it. So we, through the month, I believe, of April, we shortened our operating hours as far as the business went. But by May, we were back to full operating hours, full capacity staff, and a full service hospital.
All right. Well, by the way, and that means that you are offering full surgical services for all of our pets as well. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. By the way, when Tom was going through the different pictures just a moment ago that I think he got off either website or Facebook page, I saw a picture of a pig. How many pigs do you have as clients over there?
Well, we do have a couple that are potbelly pigs that are domesticated house pets.
Yeah.
They aren't a super common pet, but they are a popular one. When they come to visit, everyone tries to stop what they're doing and go visit.
Yeah, I've been told that these potbelly pigs are remarkably intelligent. Is there any truth to that?
From my understanding, I've not had any for my own personal pets that I could go on, but the clients that I have that bring them adore them and treat them just like you and I would treat a house pet and love them just as much. So I have to assume, yes, that they are just as good of a house pet as a dog or a cat would be.
Sure. Krista, we're in the dog days of summer. Obviously, it's very hot. Any general guidelines that you'd pass on to pet owners during these times?
Definitely providing adequate shade if your pets are outside, adequate water. The ability to get in from the heat would be the most important. If that is a possibility, that should be provided just like us. You want to limit your exposure to the environment. We want to enjoy being outside and enjoy the summer months, but we also have to understand that we have the ability to come inside and cool down, and they should also.
Sure. I'm going to talk about the general categories, cats and dogs. So let's start with dogs. Krista, what's the most common ailment that you see over at the animal hospital as it relates to dogs these days?
Well, as far as summertime goes, you obviously have to deal with fleas and ticks and heat exhaustion. Through the wintertime and fall, any type of seasonal change, you've obviously got some allergy issues. Some pets really don't deal with the seasonal changes very well, and that can affect their allergies. And then you also have our older pets who develop arthritis over time and have some age-related issues. So, we sort of run the gamut every day, depending on the season. Sometimes that will affect the ebb and flow of what we see those patients for, but those would be probably the biggest ones we see the majority of the time.
All right, let's talk about the other side of the aisle, cats. What's the biggest problem that they develop these days? I've always heard over the years that sometimes there is sort of a trend of certain feline diseases, that there's an ebb and flow of different ailments. Is that true as it relates to cats as well?
I don't know if I would say that we see ebbs and flows of diseases with cats. They do tend to be very similar across the board, just with dogs in general too. Obviously, you have those parasite issues, so you still would see those fleas and ticks in this time of year for our outdoor pets, but also our indoor pets are just as susceptible, and they're captive in the house. So that's why it's important to treat all of them all the time. And with cats, you don't see, unfortunately, too many issues until they've progressed pretty far into the disease. Cats are pretty stoic. So it's always important to have those general checks done annually, blood work ran, just because a lot of times you don't see anything going on the inside with our cats until the disease progression has reached a point where they are sick.
Yeah.
Upper respiratory infections, that's pretty common in cats that are outside. Indoor cats, they live the life of luxury a lot of the time. At least my house cats do. So I'm lucky we don't see a lot of issues with them. The concern always is more outside cat issues because they're definitely at a higher risk of the environmental dangers that are out there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, listen, I want you to cast your vote, Krista. Are you in favor of the idea of the cats being in a house cat with that dreaded litter box, or the cat that has an opportunity to patrol the outdoors? How do you cast your vote?
I am an indoor cat vote, but I am also a shared outdoor time vote. I think they enjoy being outside. I think they like having that experience.
Sure.
But I sleep better at night knowing my kitties are in the house and safe. So I'll deal with the dreaded litter box.
All right, the dreaded litter box. Well, let's ask a question as it relates to dogs as well. There's been a little bit of a groundswell in our community of people hoping that the municipality finds a way to identify a place for a dog park. But I've seen some articles on a national basis where some people actually think they're not such a great idea. Where do you come down on that debate?
Well, I'm torn on that also because I do think that people who live within city limits, who have smaller yards, who only have concrete and sidewalks to exercise their pets on would really benefit from having an area designated for pets to run in the grass and have that opportunity they maybe wouldn't otherwise. However, you do unfortunately hear stories about issues of disease being passed at those kind of places. It's very similar to the concept of a daycare or preschool. They're great environments for kids to build fundamental socialization skills. However, it is also a place for them to pass germs, to pass cooties and get sick. So you could also look at it that they eventually will build immunity from that also. But in the same sense, dog parks provide an environment for exercise and socialization that perhaps they wouldn't otherwise have, but it does open them up to being susceptible to exposure for other illnesses and diseases. So it would be something that I would support because I feel like it would be an additional place within the community for people to socialize with each other and also for pets to get this opportunity they wouldn't normally have. But I would also want people to be very vigilant about their pet's health and be respectful of the area, clean up after their pets, and be aware of that potential danger.
It's funny you mentioned the socialization because I've heard stories of men and women that are married, but they got married because their pets became friends first. Have you heard of those stories?
I've not heard of those stories, but I can see how that would bring people together. Their
Yeah.
love of pets certainly
Yeah.
would be of common interest.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Krista, we're just delighted that your organization is here in Newton Falls. You're just a couple of blocks down the street, down Canal from City Hall, and there's always activity there. And there's such an outcry of support for people that treat pets with kindness and compassion, and really bring relief to our friends that we have with us. And you know, most folks look at their pets as members of their family, and there's a real love affair going on between the community of Newton Falls and the Newton Falls Animal Hospital. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Make sure you stay there another 16 years, though. Okay.
I intend to. Thanks, Dave.
Okay. All right. That was Krista Burnsworth from the Newton Falls Animal Hospital. And what an outstanding institution, and what an outstanding person. Somebody who cares about the community and expresses that by caring for animals. Now we're going to really change direction quite a bit because there's exciting news coming from Heritage Accord regarding the community center. We're going to talk to Connie Smith Talcott in just a moment and find out about what's going on in that regard. Of course, that's presuming she picks up the phone. Let's let it ring once or twice here.
Hello.
Hi, Connie. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
Great, great. Well, first of all, thanks for picking up for a moment there. I thought we were going to have a television blooper moment where somebody didn't pick up the phone. So thank you so much. And Connie, as the head of Heritage Accord, you were given a pretty awesome responsibility, and that was to resurrect our community center, our beloved community center, that is essentially a World War II era building and a USO building, and you participated in a lease with the city of Newton Falls with the idea of its restoration, its resurrection, and its return to where people in the community could enjoy it again. And I've got you back on the program because I understand you have some big news. Can you tell everybody about it?
Well, we have identified 6 architectural firms in Northeast Ohio that would qualify to work on the building, and we have sent out our request for proposals yesterday. We'll be doing a walkthrough of the building with these folks sometime next week, and hopefully get the first phase proposal in hand by the 13th.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment. You've published an RFP. It's gone to 6 architectural firms. An RFP means request for a proposal. So your objective, as I understand it, is to pick a firm after getting responses to the request for proposals. What's the purpose of picking the firm? What do you want that firm to do?
We want to make sure that they have the background and expertise in restoring historic buildings.
Mm-hmm. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
And they can bring the proper contractor to the table.
So, in a sense, the reason this is big news, this is kind of a very important first step in a series of steps to get that building to where it could be restored to its historical condition. Is that a fair way of putting it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure, sure. And tell us about some of the specifics on the interior of the building and or the exterior where you're looking for this kind of restoration knowledge.
We're so fortunate that the building is pretty much original. It's just over the years have been, I guess, not maintained to the level it needed to be. And so we will be looking at, I guess you're asking me the things we'll be looking at in the proposal.
Yes.
We're looking to return the building to as much original as we can. That includes maybe, well, not maybe, but we'll be removing the ceiling in the auditorium to expose the beams, which were original.
Sure.
And we're going to take a look at the roof in the front, which had been turned into pitched roof, and originally it was a flat roof. And now technology has allowed, and we know why that was done because of the weather and the snow, but we've got enough, there's enough technology out there that we might be able to return that to a flat roof and without any consequences.
Sure. And I understand you've got, go ahead, I'm sorry, you go ahead.
We're also looking at expanding the stage. Leaving the front of the stage original, but adding on to the back of it, maybe adding some dressing rooms and some practice area for so we can have community theater there. The stage is not that large. It was originally just used for orchestras and things like that. So we're looking at expanding the back of that stage, perhaps building on the back of the building for the things we need so that we can bring theater to that building.
Sure. One of the other things, Connie, is that I understand you have access to an awful lot of photographs and information to give you some pretty accurate understanding of what the building was like in the 1940s. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. And, you know, we have, well, some folks might not realize, but we have a sister building in Wilmington, North Carolina. It's exactly like ours. They've restored it. They're using it as an art center. And so there's a lot of information from that building that we can use. And they're also using their stage for community theater. So we have not only photographs, but we have a building we can go and visit to actually see what it looked like. They restored theirs back to the 1940s as well.
Yeah, and I understand Lisa Horag and the Preservation Foundation have some of this historical information, which is also helpful to you in your group. In other words, they've got some historical information as it relates to that building that would be helpful to you as well.
Okay.
Well, well, if you didn't know that, they do have a lot of that, and I think that'll come in handy to you.
Well, I think they have some artifacts from the Ravenna Arsenal that was placed in their trust until the building was finished, and we hopefully will have those on display.
But that's great.
We have the gentleman out of Wilmington, North Carolina, has spent 10 years researching these buildings. And so we're fortunate to have him on board our leadership team. I think we're well positioned for moving forward. It's a huge project. This is just the very first step.
Yeah, and I understand you've also interfaced with Congressman Ryan's office, and you have summoned some help from Washington, so to speak, as well.
Yes, sir. We're reaching out. We're thrilled to have Congressman Ryan on our side in partnership with him. And he's given us some great ideas for resources. So we look forward to continuing working with his office.
Connie, that's great. Well, I envision a very exciting ribbon cutting ceremony one day over at the Newton Falls Community Center, and we have so many thank yous to extend to you and your group. Thanks for what you're doing. Please keep me posted so we can use this program on a regular basis to update folks when we have some of these big keystone moments like we are now. You're going out with this RFP. As you move along each step, let us know, because we want to tell the community how you're making progress as well. Would that be all right?
Absolutely. We want to inform the community as much as we can on what's going on. And the building will be 80 years old in 2022. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed to see if we can get some major things done before then.
Well, that's wonderful. All right, Connie, thanks so much. Keep up the great work, all right?
Thank you.
All right. That's Connie Smith Talcott, who is from Heritage Accord, who is a busy bee working towards the reopening of the Newton Falls Community Center. And how exciting to know that a part of our history that we've had around for a long time now has a chance of being preserved and restored and resurrected, perhaps more important than anything else. Well, folks, that's the end of another of our morning updates. We're here on Tuesday and Friday mornings at around 7:30. Please tune in. You know, as the city manager, I am accessible to you. 330-872-0806 is my phone number. Some of you are not very shy about calling me, but some of you are shy, and don't be so. I'm happy to talk to you. Talk, dialogue, it's a very positive thing. And it's certainly a more direct way than just posting something on Facebook and wondering why the city manager isn't responding to you. Pick up the phone, folks, 872-0806. Well, that's the end of another broadcast. Thanks, everybody. As I say at the end every time, God bless America and God bless the city of Newton Falls.